How's it going, guys? Today, I'm going to be featuring the Bismarck, the Tier 7 tech tree German battleship. Now, the Bismarck back in the day was my most played ship because it was the only battleship that you could technically build for secondaries and realistically had the best secondaries in the game because they had the most range and the best fire rate and fire chance. Although the time that I was playing the Bismarck a lot, the Bismarck wasn't exactly that great. This was before the main battery's accuracy was buffed and also before the secondaries were buffed so that the 105mm guns could actually pen destroyers. So before that, the only secondaries that could actually do anything at tier 7 was the 150s, and since there's only 6 of them, it wasn't exactly that effective of a build, but nonetheless, it was still fun to have a fireworks show going off every time you pushed in. Now, coming to today, the Bismarck has gone under a lot of changes, and ultimately, this ship I think is still a strong pick. I know a lot of players may not enjoy the Bismarck because the main battery is not as accurate as they would like, comparing it to ships like the Iowa, Alabama, Amagi, and any of the other actual accurate battleships. Although the Bismarck having now a 1.95 Sigma, I think is honestly quite good. Also having access to a hybrid commander, you can build for accuracy and secondaries at the same time, and ultimately have the best of both worlds. Now, this was also a time before the secondary consumable existed, and the only inspiration that you could use for secondaries was actually Hipper, so we did not have secondaries nearly as good as it is now, and ultimately I am fairly happy with where we are at. Hopefully they do a little more to make the normal German battleship line a little more viable in today's meta, because ultimately I think the original line has been power crept by the Massachusetts, by the German battle cruisers, and ultimately it's in a spot where this ship isn't going to be anyone's top pick. Now, even though I say this ship won't be anyone's top pick, I think it's still far from being a bad ship. So, depending on how you build your Bismarck, it is going to take a little more knowledge on how to get the best use out of your ship. Now, if you build for secondaries, it is going to be a lot more difficult than if you were to simply build for accuracy and play at range. Now, I don't really like seeing Bismarcks at the back of the map because, well, the whole idea of these German battleships with their turtleback and secondaries is that you want to push in, but I know not knowing how to actually push in effectively usually turns into a YOLO for those that don't quite understand, and it is quite difficult to do, finding when you can actually push in and then it actually ending up being an effective push instead of you throwing your ship away. Now, like I said earlier about Henry J. Hyde being the best commander for these German battleships because you can have the best of both worlds in accuracy and secondaries, I am using Henry J. Hyde, although I am using a secondary build wherever I can, and that means I am using the secondary battery mod in the first row or the first slot instead of using aiming systems. And I do have a video that I posted a few months ago, which is a hybrid build going for secondaries but also building for accuracy as much as I can, and that game was a fairly good example of how accurate this ship could be if you actually decide to build for accuracy. But in this one, I decided to go with the build that I actually used a few years ago. Well, almost the same build back when I actually played the Bismarck a lot. Fight fire with fire didn't exist, so we had to choose between Farsight or running with scissors, two skills that honestly were quite bad, and in all honesty I think are still quite bad. With Farsight, nothing has really changed. You still lose out on a repair party to gain some torpedo detectability, and I think it's quite useless. And then the other skill that you could only choose was running with scissors, and back then when you maxed out the skill, it was actually a 10% debuff to your dispersion. So ultimately now it's not as bad, but it's still quite bad because you never want to lose out on accuracy on your main battery because that's your main way of dealing damage. Now I know I use running with scissors on my Massachusetts secondary build, but that's just because I like to have turret traverse, especially when trying to go for drive-bys. And for most of you that have been around and seen the games where I posted with the running with scissors and having a secondary build, you know how bad the dispersion on Massachusetts can get. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have for you guys in this video. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this game, and if you do, leave a like and subscribe for more, and share it with your friends, or leave a comment down below on other ships you want to see in the future. But until next time, aloha.
Concentrate fire on the target. Roger. We've been spotted. Concentrate fire on the enemy warship.
Hauptturm kritisch beschädigt!